Hey everybody, welcome to the Johansson show. I'm joined by one of the promising young stars of British wrestling, Logan Smith. Logan, thank you for coming on.
Hi, brilliant. Thanks for having me on.
No, really excited. Obviously, when I was to the nine of them, sang your praises for the recent work in ICW and pinpointed yourself and Alex as a team they like to face and somebody they'd want to work with more. How does that feel?
It felt like it was quite amazing just to sort of hear that these guys have noticed that even though me and Alex have just came in the door at ICW, they're already sort of we're already picking attention of people who have been there countless years, like Dickie Divers, even who are just out in my position, who have now made their name in ICW, like Jack Morris.
Yeah.
So it was a great thing to hear that the guys appreciated what we were doing in ICW already.
Yeah, definitely, and it's deserved. Like everybody that I talk to, where they mention to obviously wrestling. How does that feel being announced for Pro2 and that again a lot of people are singing your praises on the Scottish wrestling scene?
Again, it's another exciting thing, like another new company in another area that I've never actually had the chance to perform in. So it's just another place for me to be able to basically showcase who I am and like what I can bring, and all these people sort of commenting on what I can bring to Pro2. Hopefully, I can deliver what all these people are building expectations to be.
Yeah, definitely. Is there anybody in particular that may have been announced or even may not be announced that you'd hope to work with in the Pro2 ring? Like, who do you think that match to be like, I'm Logan Smith and I'm here?
Honestly, anybody there, like I'm more than happy to go in there, and whoever's there waiting for a match, I'm more than happy to go in there and have a match with absolutely whoever. I don't care if it's somebody that I've wrestled before, somebody that I'm going to wrestle one day in the future, somebody that I know very well, somebody that I've never met in my life. I'm more excited to wrestle absolutely anybody, especially in front of a crowd.
Yeah, definitely. How do you feel about wrestling new opponents, especially again, despite you still being in the early stages of your career, you've done a lot already, but how do you feel when you get some new opponents that you've not worked with yet? Like, is there any nerves or?
I mean, it can be nerve wracking at first when you're like, I don't know what to expect here. Like, sometimes when I wrestle guys that I've trained with, I'm like, right, I know how they wrestle, I get that. I know how they work. Whereas it might be somebody that I didn't even know wrestled at this point. And I'm like, right, I don't know how you wrestle. I don't know what sort of style you wrestle like. So it can be like, what do I do here? But then, like, when you get in that ring and you start wrestling, you're like, no, hold on, I'm enjoying this. So 90% of the time, 99% of the time, it turns out to be like, this is actually good fun. Like, I enjoy this, and it just settles every nerve that you've sort of had leading up to that moment. But yeah, it's always exciting when you're told you're wrestling somebody new, because it's taking you away from your own comfort zone, but it's expanding like new horizons for you to actually like follow on. So I am excited.
Oh, brilliant. For people that may not have seen your work and if they've not checked out like the latest ICW stuff, how would you define your style?
Um, it's like a sort of mix between like sort of high flying and striker ability. So um, I'll mostly aim most of my things towards being a strike. So I'll try and break people down with punches and kicks and several other things. But I'm not hesitant to go up top and do diving crossbodies or missile drop kicks. So that's the best way I'd describe myself as a wrestler.
Yeah, well, your sister, obviously Rosie Nyte, also in the business.
Yeah.
What was it like for yourselves growing up then? Was you both watching wrestling at an early stage for you both to pursue the crazy world of professional wrestling?
I mean, I can never recall watching wrestling with Rosie, but like, I used to always watch wrestling myself, because like, at the young age, even though like I was enjoying it, I still knew that it wasn't a thing most people enjoyed. So personally, I tried to keep it quiet as possible at first.
I've been there.
I kept it as quiet as possible. I didn't even tell like my best friend in school, and then I don't know, it just sort of spiraled, and then I started wrestling at one point. It's like one of my best friends who's like on the Scottish wrestling scene as well, who's going by the name Jimmy Pierce now. He's the one that sort of broke into me, and he was like, "Listen, like we like wrestling as we guys. I've been wrestling for a couple of years now. Come with me and start wrestling with me." And that's when it sort of took off for me. So I had been wrestling for about a year until I debuted. And right after I debuted, that sort of encouraged Rosie to be like, "Nah, hold on, that could be something that I'm interested in." So it was obviously Rosie had watched some wrestling when she was younger, and seeing me in the ring sort of reignited the fire in her for it. And basically, it was like it was confusing at first because it was like, what's going to happen here? Are we going to end up having to be like, is it going to be like, oh, it's Rosie and Logan, that's the sister thing, and that it was cool to see her end up following my path. It was cool to see her following the footsteps that I had left for her to follow. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's cool, man. I enjoy seeing her going about her business now as well.
Yeah, definitely. Parents take it, because normally parents are quite surprised when one of the children wants to pursue wrestling, but to have both of you in, like, what did they think to it?
I mean, at first they were sort of like when I was younger, I had done karate and everything. I tried karate, I tried free running and everything. So I'd stay at that for like 3 weeks, and it'd be like, that's me done. I've had enough. Can't be bothered. So I think they seen that it's going to be something very similar. But when they realised like I was serious about this, they couldn't have been any more supportive. It was like they had made sure that I was at training every week. They made sure I could make every show. So everything they done pretty much is where it's got me now. So yeah.
Oh, amazing. So how old were you when you first started training?
I started training when I was 14. Started training at 14, 6 years ago.
Had you told your best, like, some of your best friends at school at this point that?
It slowly, I'm not actually sure how it became knowledge, but it did slowly but surely become common knowledge that I had started wrestling training. But at that point, it was a sort of way that they would laugh and they'd joke with you, they'd crack the jokes like, ah, that's fake, that's blah blah blah. But after like the first couple days of getting that crack,
Yeah.
everything else was like, so what is it actually? Is it like this? Is it like that? They were actually genuinely interested in what I was doing. So in a way, it was like they're actually intrigued by this because they've never met anybody that also does this. Like
Yeah.
they've never met somebody before that does this, so it was different to them. But um, the reaction that I received was fairly okay. Like I didn't receive too much like grief about it, as I say.
Yeah. And here you are now, like, on the WWE Network,
Yeah.
which, how's that felt for you, being on the network?
It's honestly incredible. Like to sort of go from being a sort of shyer younger boy, like I was sort of shyer when I was younger, but to be where I am now and like doing what I do weekly on the WWE Network, it's surreal to see myself there every week.
What was your first reaction when you found out you was going to be part of ICW on the network, and you first start seeing those graphics where WWE Network's associated with it?
I mean, so when I first got put on ICW, I was going, oh, it's going to ICW on demand. That's cool, man. Like I'm excited for that. But I was actually backstage. I don't know if you remember the first show after lockdown. Simon Cassidy had done an introduction, and he'd basically said, "Well, you're watching as part of the ICW Mafia, part of the WWE Universe." And when I heard that, it was just queasing my stomach. So I was like, "Oh no, this is going on the network." So it was like, this is really cool. So when I first went out, it was like, right, you need to, this is different now. Like it's completely different to what I was used to. I was used to working in front of like fans. We were doing fan friendly shows. That's all I'd ever known. and there was no cameras. And then you go out at ICW and there's all these bright lights pointing at you, bright lights, cameras. So it's just like, right, this is a lot different to what I'm used to. Overall, it's still like every week when I get told like this match is going up on the WWE Network, that match is I'm still like, that's incredible that I'm still getting posted in every week along with like some of the best wrestlers in the world right now. So it's cool.
100%. What was your first impressions on British wrestling? Like, when did you first find out about the British wrestling scene?
So I didn't know much about British wrestling scene. Like that, my very first live show was like a WWE live show in Braehead, and then like I went to Butlins, and at that point it was All Star Wrestling still running. So I was like, we went to that, and I enjoyed that as well. But at that point, I had no clue that was British wrestling. I just assumed that's like Americans that weren't in WWE that were coming here to do that. And then I went to another local show that one of my friends my friend's brother was wrestling on it. And I was like, oh, hold on, that's pretty cool. Like, there's actual British wrestlers, like Scottish wrestlers, a thing. That's when I realised it was a thing. I had no clue until like maybe 5 months before I started wrestling. I had no clue that Scottish wrestling was a thing. And then I found out about all these different places that were actually running shows, and there was shows happening here. There was shows happening about 10 minutes down from my house. Like, ICW used to run the Maryhill community halls.
Yeah.
They run that venue with guys like Drew McIntyre and all that. But that's 10 minutes from my house, and I didn't even know it was a thing. So it seemed like that it wasn't as big as it is now, but now it's everywhere. Like you can't turn a corner in a busy town centre without seeing a poster for a wrestling show, which is incredible. But that I never knew it was a thing when I was at that age.
So when you came through with like PBW, and how did you feel finally being in front of an audience and finally making that in-ring debut in front of genuine crowds?
When I made my debut, it was in front of like my family and my friends and like everybody else's family and friends, which was like, yeah, that's cool. It's a nice way to settle you into an actual crowd, because when like your own family and your own friends are there, they're going to support you no matter what. Like they've got their opinion of you, they're going to support you. But then you're in front of a crowd where absolutely no one knows you, and it's just a completely different feeling. You're like, what if like you go out there trying to be the good guy, and you go out there and what if nobody likes me? What if I get a bad reaction? What do I do? But it's the same as how I mentioned with the WWE Network thing. It's that feeling of like you feel nauseous as such before you do the entrance, but then as soon as you go out for your entrance, it's like this is fine. This is like, I feel like this is right. This is what I should be doing. And then when you start wrestling, like you forget. Like a lot of the time when I wrestle, I forget there's a crowd there. I know that sounds like I shouldn't forget that they're there, but even though I'm still interacting with them and everything, I don't register in my head that there's a whole room of people just watching me. So it still throws you off sometimes when you're like, there's a lot of people out there, but as soon as you start wrestling, you feel like you're like, yeah, that's fine, like you're on with it. So overall, I actually, like, it annoys me that crowds aren't in right now.
Yeah.
Because like you just want that interaction that you get. I love the fact that you need to interact with a camera at ICW, but it's not the same as interacting with genuine fans.
Yeah. How do you feel about how you'll adjust when fans are back then? Because although you need to be interacting with the crowd and bringing the crowd in, because you are on the network and there is now this big production, you'll still need to be focusing on that camera as well. Like, do you feel like it will take some getting used to, or?
See, I'm not sure. I think the way that it's happened for me, that I've been fortunate enough that it's when I've had the opportunity to work just crowds on their own.
Yeah.
And I've had the opportunity to work just cameras on their own. So I've had this opportunity to work them both individually. So I know how to work one the right way, and I know how to work the other one the right way. But trying to focus on the two and making sure everybody's seeing what you're doing, it's like I've never I've never gotten to experience an ICW crowd yet. But it's 100% something that I'm looking forward to. But I can't quite explain the sort of feeling that you get when you try and communicate to fans through a camera. It's just not the same sort of feeling that you get. But I think working to both, it's going to come slightly more natural because we've waited so long for these guys to get back into venues. It's going to come natural that we just want to communicate with them. But like you said, we need to focus on that camera more.
100%. And if you're not experiencing that ICW crowd yet, they're rowdy enough to begin with. Never mind having a pandemic that's kept them out for well over a year.
Exactly.
So that's going to be one rowdy crowd.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm looking forward to the day that happens.
What match would you want that to be then? Would you want it as singles or yourself and Alex? Like, what match do you want to be? Here's the introduction to the ICW crowd.
I'm really enjoying what me and Alex are doing right now. Like, me and Alex are like, I think I speak for the both of us. Maybe I'm wrong. He can maybe correct me at some point. But I'm really enjoying what we're doing. I think what we're doing is like we're bringing this new sort of style that's coming into this sort of younger generation into ICW. We are bringing this new sort of style into it. Like the guys that we've got in ICW Tag Division now, they're all incredible. Like guys like Logan Krieger and the 99, like they're all incredible. Like, but us being so young, we are still at that spot where we're like, we are going like do this, do that, do this, do that. We are trying to we are going faster than a lot of guys. Where guys are like they're a lot more their mindset's a lot more slow paced, keep it steady. Whereas we're like we want to get in and we want to wrestle. We want to wrestle quick and we want to wrestle and get it done. But guys that have been there a long time know what they're doing and that. So but yeah, I would love to be in front of a crowd. I think for the first time, I think me and Alex being there together is like it would be a good way to start us off there.
Yeah, definitely. But no, I get what you're saying, and the tag division is very varied. And then obviously once the travel restrictions and social distancing and stuff's eased off, you've got like the likes of Kings of the North that will come over, and I get what you're saying. Like a lot of them are maybe a lot slower paced in the way of their approach. I know Jack can make the pace go a little bit faster, and Luke can as well, but you do seem to be that only pairing of two lads that are just, again, younger, just going to start running like as if you've had your E numbers and you're getting hyper and you're just going to be flying all over the place and stuff like that. Have you been thinking of a name for yourselves?
We've been talking a bit about a name, but nothing's clicked with us yet. We went, that's the one. But there's still talk. We're still talking about what we can do with it. We're talking about further tag finishers that we can do, stuff like that. But it's hopefully it all comes together, and hopefully maybe the name sticks before we can get the crowds in.
Yeah. With the tag moves, how are you finding that? Like to be able to sit down and be like, right, we could do this or we could do that, because it's a whole new beast. Like the psychology and stuff's a lot different to just the typical singles match. How have you found it, like being a tandem rather than just yourself?
Like working with Alex, I think it's been really easy to come up with these sort of like tag moves because we're very similar in style.
Yeah.
We've got a very similar wrestling style. So I think coming up with these moves, it's been like putting our moves together and just going, right, you do that, but I do this move and it ends up with him there, so you can then do that move. So it's all flowing really well. But there's some things that we're coming out with like we've never done before. And it's like I've never done certain moves before. Now when I'm with Alex, I'm like, we'll try it and we'll see. So if it's working, it's working. We're winning matches. So, but yeah, it's been fairly easy sort of transitioning from that way of being in an ICW singles matches to working with him weekly now. So yeah, I'm more than happy with the way we were going.
Oh, brilliant. So taking it back a little bit then, before getting to ICW, and we'll get into the Danish stuff, what was some of like your favourite matches, or the match where you felt that's my best match to date?
There was quite shortly after like I debuted, it was like maybe a year after I debuted, I tagged it was a show in Larbert. There was an open challenge for a tag team title held by Lou and Krieger. They held the title, and it was like an open challenge, and me and Daz Black, we accepted that. So me and Daz Black were tagging at that point. We enjoyed that tag match to go in with two guys that we had looked up to as like trainers at that point. Yeah. They had been our trainers for that point. So we went into that match with them, and I think before everything, like before Denmark and everything, that was at the moment I was like, that this might actually work out. Like something here might actually happen with that wrestling game. Like before that, it was maybe like, is anything going to go further here? But I think after that match, I realised like, nah, this is definitely what I want to do.
Yeah, and you mentioned Lou, and I know there was a couple more. There was like 6-mans where you'd maybe team together, or you might be facing each other, and there was a singles match. And then Denmark happens, and obviously Lou's done an incredible job in bridging the gap between Denmark and especially Copenhagen Championship Wrestling and the Scottish wrestling scene, creating opportunities for you guys to go over, and then hopefully when the pandemic's over, vice versa, and they can come over here. How did that first stint with CCW come about?
Like, it came about because Lou was running a training camp. Lou was the head trainer of a boot camp posse that lasted a week in Denmark. So he had invited me and Jimmy Pierce over to go to train with him for a week in Denmark. So that's how it all originally came about, and we got there, and it was like when we started training, we had no intention, we had no idea that it was going to lead to a Danish debut of that. We were under the impression we'll just go over and we'll train for a week. It's a week long. I tried we get to see Denmark as well, so it's an extra bonus. But when we got there, it was like the guys were impressed by the way we were training, we were holding ourselves. That they were like, we're going to put you on the shows. So we ended up being able to do 2 shows with them, and honestly, it was like, I think it's probably one of my greatest achievements I think I've done in wrestling, even just pushing myself through 8 days of training.
Yeah. Now I know, like I know they do a lot of boot camps out there in Denmark, and the fact that you've been able to wrestle there so young in your career, and I know involved in a battle royal and one of the matches as well in a single match with Copenhagen Hangman.
Yeah.
How did you find that?
The match itself, like, I don't want to say it didn't happen, but it's not the match that I would have liked to have with Hangman. Like, I was really looking forward to that match, but we got like 2 minutes in or something, and I dislocated my shoulder. I dislocated my shoulder, so I had to pretty much, I threw the match, and I was like, I can't wrestle right now. But at the point, it was like, I'm not just walking out the ring. Like, I'll finish the match, but I can't do anything because my shoulder's like hanging off me. So the match didn't go the way that I really wanted it to, and I was really annoyed at the fact that that's what happened from it. Yeah. But hopefully, as you said, when the restrictions are lifted, maybe I can go back there and I can finish that match that I started with him.
Because you did work against him in a 6-man the first show, is that correct?
Yeah.
How was the 6-man then?
The 6-man was cool. Like, it was just crazy to be like, just be these young boys from Scotland that are brought in to be in the main event of a European show, and it was like, this is crazy that this is happening to us. But being in that match, it was cool. And we were, like, me and Jimmy Pierce were wrestling alongside with Lou, so it was cool to be there with, like, Lou, who's, as you said, bridged that gap. So it was awesome to basically be standing there and be like, right, this is what Scotland can bring to Denmark.
Yeah.
Let's see what Denmark can bring to Scotland, and then they brought it, man. It was great fun.
Amazing. How was the crowd and stuff? Obviously, you've been working family-friendly shows, and then you go to Copenhagen to wrestle. There's a big difference. How did you? And obviously, language barriers can be there. I know in Scandinavia they do speak really well with their English, but the fans are used to a different type of wrestling and stuff like that. So how did you find adjusting to that?
Like, adjusting to it, like, at the age I was, I found it quite easy. I know that sounds like I'm just bragging, but it was only easy because we had Lou.
Yeah.
We had Lou there. Lou had worked Denmark before. He knew what the crowds were like. He was able to basically guide me and Jimmy forward to be like, this is what to do there. That's what to do there. So it was helpful having Lou there, but then obviously you go into the singles. Like, I went into the singles with Hangman. It was a completely different sort of. It was a different feel. Like, I've went out there and I'm like, how do I communicate with these people? But actually communicating that with them and interacting with them as a crowd, it was fairly easy. Like, they were just up for watching some good wrestling.
Yeah.
Like, that's all you want from a crowd. You want a crowd to basically be like, we're just here to watch wrestling. We just enjoy wrestling, so we're here. They're not there because they're forced to be there. So just having to go out there and be a bad guy in front of that crowd, it was fairly easy. So because they just wanted they wanted to hate us because we were from Denmark, but they wanted to love Hangman because he was from Denmark. So it was fairly easy for me to be the bad guy in that situation. But I'm not too sure if the roles were reversed that it would be so much easier. Like, but at the end of the day, the crowd were brilliant. Like, we went out before. It was like part of like a fair that we ran the show on. So at first it was like, well, are we going to get many people in from the fair? But it ended up being an absolutely incredible crowd. So I enjoyed every minute. You know.
Amazing. How's the shoulder at the moment then?
The shoulder's perfectly fine. So that started a couple of years ago where I dislocated it, and they offered surgery, and I turned it down, which was stupid. So I turned it down, kept wrestling, dislocated my shoulder 50 plus times in 2 years. Decided it was time to get the surgery. I got that. I was out for a year, and then I came back and snapped my shin bone 6 months later.
How did you snap the shin bone?
So I'm not 100% sure on how it happened, but like, I was basically running toward, like, me and the other guy that I was wrestling, we were running towards each other, and I threw a soccer kick, and I think he threw something as well, but our shins pretty much collided, and mine was just unfortunate enough to just snap. So
did it pierce through or?
No, it was like clean through. It was a clean break through, but I think it was originally just like maybe fractured originally, but then I thought, you know what, I'm halfway through a match, I'll try and stand up. So then I tried to stand up and I just crumbled to the floor. So that's probably where it all went wrong.
I'd always remember when I used to play football, and I felt real bad for it. I played the ball through, strikers running onto it. Keeper comes charging out. He just dinks the ball past the keeper, goes to jump, and the keeper's coming at full pace, slings his legs out, and they go shin pad to shin pad.
Oh.
He's just in a heap on the floor, and the bone had gone through the skin.
Oh, no.
And had gone through, the shin pad had shattered, had gone through the skin, gone through the like his football socks and stuff. And I'd ran over, like, you walk and saw it. I was just like, oh my god. Worst thing is, our home pitch, you don't get much signal. where we was in the middle of nowhere, probably an hour away from a major hospital, and we're just like, what the hell do we do here? So, yeah, as soon as you mentioned like Shinbon, I was just thinking, oh, that's all I could visualize is just bones sticking straight out.
Oh no. Thankfully that didn't happen. Things went a million instead of coming out the way. But thankfully, I don't know what I would have done if my balloon was just popping out my leg. I wouldn't have enjoyed that at all.
Still try and stand up. I'm all right, guys. No, I'm not. How's that feel at the moment then?
That's perfectly fine, honestly. Like, I would never even think that it's been a thing unless there was like 6 months of being in a hit pie cast. Like, I wouldn't have ever thought about it again. But it basically showed me that, like, at those points, it was like I was like, that's enough of wrestling. Like, I don't think I want to do it anymore. But it was like loads of people were just like, you can't just be like give up that well. So it was like my parents were like, you're not giving up. Like, you can't just let an injury set you back. Angel Hayes as well. She's like, it's very well known that like we're in a relationship together.
Yeah.
But she basically made sure that I wouldn't quit just because of an injury. So it was great having people like that at that point.
Yeah, I can imagine. And it's a good job that you had people there, and especially like your parents as well. Because it'd have been so easy for them to be like, no, don't want you to do it anymore. First your shoulder, now this. And the fact that them and Angel have been pushing you to go on, and look, you made your return 2019.
Yeah.
Yes, a pandemic was soon to follow 2020, but you capped that off by debuting with ICW and appearing on the WWE Network.
Yeah.
Do you think the time off, did that change your style at all?
During the time off being injured, like most days I would sit and watch wrestling. Like, I'd sit and watch wrestling matches from years back, and I'd watch a lot of British wrestling. I'd watch ICW on demand and stuff. But yeah, like before that, like before I snapped my shin, I was probably like 5'9", and I was still trying to do things that a guy like 5'4" is wrestling like. I was trying to do stuff like that where I was like, maybe I need to think about this and come back to something else. So yeah, it definitely did change the way I wrestled quite a bit, because especially like at first it was like I was being a lot more cautious when I wrestled. Like, I was making sure I wasn't doing things that I was going to land on my shin, or I wasn't going to land on my shoulder, because at that point I was still like, I need to protect my shoulder as well as my leg. But it definitely changed the way I wrestled. But I think now that when I look back on it, it definitely changed it for the good.
Yeah. Is it the same side for your shoulder and the shin, or is it alternate sides?
Opposite sides. It's opposite.
Oh, that's even worse.
That was my left shin and my right shoulder. So,
because if it was your right shin, you'd be like, right, let's just try and fall to the left side. If I need to land, it's left side. But now you've got to be like, which one am I going to risk today?
I've written down hope for the best.
So what was your thoughts like when the pandemic had hit? Obviously, you've only just been back just shy of probably around a year. The pandemic has hit, and we didn't know when people are going to wrestle again, and then ICW come knocking. Like, what was the first point of call from ICW saying they wanted to use you?
So it was October last year was the first time that they contacted me, basically being like, right, we want to use you. And I was like, yeah, sounds good. When are you wanting me to wrestle? And the next text was like, tomorrow. And I was like, right, no, hold on. I've not wrestled in almost a year. You want me to wrestle in ICW tomorrow. So it was like, right, okay, I'll be there. At that point, it was like, I don't know if I'm ready for ICW. I've not wrestled in a year.
Yeah.
Am I not even am I ready just for ICW? Am I ready for wrestling in general? Because I was like, I might come back here and I might just not be able to wrestle. Like, maybe wrestling's like riding a bike, but at that point I was like, maybe I've just forgotten everything. Like, I come back and I don't know how to do a clothesline. I'm trying to clothesline people with my foot. But
I'm just picturing it as like a comedy skit where they're on the phone and you're midway through like a takeaway or something like, what tomorrow? And you're just like, there goes the burger. Like, can't eat that. How did you find it? Like when you was it like riding a bike? Did you fall in easy or how was it?
yeah, when like first getting back in, like when I get backstage, it was like putting my gear on. I was like, this is a weird feeling. Like I've not felt like I've had to put my gear on, and like
Yeah.
I felt like that was the first time I'd ever wore wrestling gear. But like as soon as you get back into the ring, you like before the taping started, you're running the ropes and that, and you're like, oh, it does come back to you very quickly. Like it's like this is what you need to do for that, and that. So yeah, like I would say it is like riding a bike, especially after like I think maybe I know a lot of people that are currently on ICW have talked a lot about how they've felt like they've had that bit of ring rust and stuff. But I think personally it helped me a lot because I had already been out for 2 years prior.
Yeah.
I'd already had years out, so I'd been like, I know how to bring myself back up to the level I was at. So I did think that helped a lot in the situation, but at the end of the day, I never want to not wrestle for a year again. It is one of the most soul destroying things.
How long, like, I know you mentioned the differences with wrestling in front of no crowd and having to look at the camera. How did you find that to begin with? Was it a bit weird having to show your emotions and reach out to the crowd via the camera screen rather than the live audience?
Like, not really. It wasn't much different because, like, obviously, I'm used to working with just the crowd
Yeah,
itself. But obviously, with the crowd not being there, I basically replaced the crowd with cameras.
yeah,
Crowd were now cameras to me. So instead of reaching towards a crowd, I was reaching towards the cameras. So I found it quite easy to quickly develop into this
yeah.
new style. But yeah, it was perfectly fine. But it's trying to get over that fear of just having a camera flung in your face, and it's like, right, I better do something.
Yeah, no, definitely. And since like your debut, you've had various singles matches, a couple of tag matches, fatal four ways. More recently in the ICW Zero G tournament. What have been some of your highlights so far? Like, who are some of your favorite opponents and matches under the ICW banner?
Well, I really enjoyed like my very first match with Theodoros. I
Yeah,
really enjoyed that. Like that was something that was like I'd always thought I'd like to wrestle Theo at some point, even
yeah,
before ICW came about. I was like, Theo's definitely a guy I want to wrestle. Um, but guys like Theo, Luke Cairo, like I've been in that fatal four way where I actually got to wrestle Alex as well.
yeah,
So being in that fatal four way with Theo, Charlie Weiss, Alex, and myself, like that's probably been one of the favourite things that I've done. And the aspect and guys like Leighton Buzzard, wrestling Leighton Buzzard, that was incredible. Like uh, I watched Leighton Buzzard. I used to watch Leighton Buzzard on the family shows, and I watched him on ICW, and I was
yeah,
like, man, he's talented, but when you actually get in the ring with him, you realise he's more than just talented. Like he's just like naturally gifted. So it's like he can pull out a cracking match like without even thinking that he's doing it.
yeah.
So wrestling Leighton Buzzard's been one of the highlights I think to me.
Is he somebody you're hoping to be able to wrestle more?
Oh, 100%. Aye, 100%. I'd love to wrestle Leighton a lot more.
Yeah. I know you obviously going to be going forward with the tag team with Alex, but if you were to have any more singles matches, like again, the ICW roster is huge. Is there anybody that is on that bucket list? Like I know you mentioned you just enjoy being in the ring, you enjoy facing whoever's in front of you, but is there somebody that deep down you're like, that's the person? Obviously, you got people the likes of BT Gunn, who's incredible, and
There's honestly plenty of guys like BT Gunn, Jack Jester, Stevie Boy. honestly, you could name anybody. You could name Mark Coffey, Wolfgang, guys like that, guys who are still there in ICW, even though being a part of WWE NXT UK. Like, getting in the ring with one of these guys would be absolutely incredible to me. But as you said already, that like absolutely anybody that I'm in a ring with, I'm gonna enjoy it no matter what, because it's just at the end of the day, I'm wrestling either way.
Yeah.
So,
who's the person you've been going to for advice whilst being at ICW? Like, who's been there to give you feedback on your matches and say maybe work on this, or you've been doing that great? Who do you turn to?
There's it really just depends. There's loads of guys that are there that will just give you advice without even having to ask it. Like, the camera crew is brilliant for giving guys like me advice on how to work towards the camera. The camera crew are incredible for stuff like that. Mark Dallas, Jack Jester, Red Lightning, Scott Reed, all these guys will give you their sort of input on what they'd like to see you do, and it genuinely does help. And then you've just got the guys who you've wrestled, or guys that have been in ICW for a while before. It's like whoever's there. You've got the referees, Sean and Thomas. They're constantly giving you advice on like using the tag rope as a thing.
Yeah.
We were never used to using the tag rope. It wasn't a thing when we were wrestling in the family shows. But using the tag rope in ICW, it's like a lot different to what we're used to. So even the refs giving you that sort of advice. But absolutely anybody can turn around to you and be like, this looked good, but do this. Or this would look good. So everybody backstage is like incredibly helpful, especially like our sort of generation where they're like they can actually pass on their knowledge to us. So everybody pretty much.
Oh, brilliant. What's next then? Like, what's the goals for yourself in your career? Again, only just getting started, going back to Denmark. You've already mentioned teaming with Alex, but for long term, is NXT UK or is it AEW or going to Japan? What are your goals?
I mean, NXT UK is like the place right now for British wrestling. It's like it's just brilliant for the UK wrestling scene. It's what's really got us back on that map after we sort of had that wee downfall in wrestling, and then that's brought us back to where we are now. But that's definitely a long term future goal where I would like to be there someday. But as of right now, I'm just looking like my next goal right now is to be in front of an ICW crowd. That's my goal right now, and pretty much to wrestle everywhere and anywhere. That's all I want to do.
Is there any companies here in the UK that you're hoping to be a part of? Again, announced for Pro2, and you've already spoke about your excitement going there because it's somewhere you've not really wrestled before, and obviously doing more stuff with ICW. But is there anywhere in England or Ireland that are on those goals where you'd like to go wrestle?
There's plenty of places. Like I 100% want to get down England somewhere. Like I want to wrestle in England somewhere. I want to wrestle. Like my plan last year, I had planned to go to Ireland and train somewhere last year, to hopefully maybe get something out of that. But there's honestly there's countless places where I can be like, I want to wrestle there, I want to wrestle there. It's just a matter of fact of making it happen. Like it's finding those places that are more than happy to be like, yeah, and I like your work. You come to here, or yeah, like sometimes you'll get we've got a full roster, but I know X company's looking for wrestlers. So at the end of the day, it's like I've said it countless times already, but I just want to wrestle absolutely anywhere. But getting out of Scotland again is a main goal right now. Doing the rest of the UK and hopefully maybe another country in Europe or Denmark again. I'd love to do Denmark again, but I'd love also to do somewhere maybe like Italy or something.
Oh no, brilliant. So to kind of like wrap things up then, try and think like fantasy booker, I guess. If you could have that one match, who would it be?
myself against somebody or just any
Yeah,
self
yourself.
somebody. I would have to put myself against Edge basically because he's the guy that basically got me into wrestling. Like I had watched wrestling a couple of times and it was like, oh, it's wrestling, blah blah blah, and then like he was in the first wrestling match I watched. The first wrestling match I watched was the Triple Threat TLC match with Edge and Christian.
Jesus Christ. What introduction that is.
But that was the first match I watched. But then I seen him actually wrestle like on his own instead of being in that match. I think it was actually like I was like 8 or something. And I watched him versus Mick Foley at WrestleMania, and I was like, the aggression that guy shows. I actually feel sorry for the other guy in this match. So I'm like, right, hold on, let's watch more of Edge. So yeah, Edge would definitely be the guy that I turn around and be like, that's who I want to wrestle.
Oh, amazing. Logan, thank you for coming on. Like, been great talking to you and about your career so far. And again, you're only just getting started and being on the WWE Network with ICW and stuff like that. So hopefully once the world opens back up, it's only going to be the beginning for yourself. So again, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed this.
Brilliant. Where can people find you across social media?
I'm on Twitter as UK Logan Smith, I think. And then I'm just Logan Smith on Facebook, and my Instagram's the same as my Twitter.
Yeah, Logan Smith _UK for Twitter. So guessing it'll be that for Instagram as well. I'll put it in the description for everybody. Logan, again, thank you. All the best going forward. Everybody, make sure you do follow Logan across social media. Hit like, hit subscribe. Until next time, bye for now.